in the Nunn, an online show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We are here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter.
Machine with a need to bleed you when the light goes green. Best believe I'm in the zone to be. From a yin to my yang to Z. Put a grin on my chin when you come to me. Cause I'll win, I'm a one of a kind, and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in a fire lit long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Lord, make me dead before you make me old. I feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior, this is my song. I am a warrior and this is my song. I bask in the glow of the rising war, lay waste to the ground of an enemy shore. Wade through the blood spilled on the floor, and if another one stands, I'll kill some more. Bullet in the breach and a fire in me, like a cigarette thrown to gasoline. If death don't bring you fear, I swear you'll fear these marching feet. Come to the nightmare, come to me. Deep down in the dark where the devil be. In the mall where the jaws and the razor teeth, where the brimstone burns and the angel weeps. All that the gods ever cross your path, and my silhouette hangs like a body map. Hope is a moment now long past.
All right, everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Stu and the Nunn here on April 8th. Thank you so much for letting us into your homes and on your screens. And I can see our chat room is getting going. Numbers are climbing, and we appreciate everyone tuning in. We are a couple minutes late, but hey, if you know this show, if you've been watching for a while, you shouldn't be surprised. It's live. You see what you get, and sometimes, you know, the great Zuckerbergs of the world and Steve Jobses and all those kind of throw us a ringer, and so it is what it is, right? Murphy's always there, isn't that right, Toby?
I think so. I think I got it. Like, this is like how proud I am. Like, I got my like handheld FBCB2 going, and I think I've been able to populate my icon on the social media world.
There you go.
Like,
You didn't need
I had a little technical difficulty, and
didn't
like,
need a-
man, I just pulled it out. I think I just pulled it out with a handheld.
You didn't need a terp to do that for you? Because I used to get my
I didn't.
terps to just load up my you know, put in my FBCB2 and like load it up, start giving me sit reps because there was no one else.
Yeah,
to do
that was probably part of the problem and why we're still there. Okay.
Probably. They're trained up,
just
though.
putting that one out there.
Yeah.
Just
Anyways,
putting that one out there.
how you doing there in the Southern Studio?
We're good. We're good. Weather's not bad. You know, can't complain. You know, I still have a cool governor. You don't.
No,
so
not at all.
I got that going for me.
You got,
you know, like,
you've got one of the top two coolest governors. You know, I would say.
I don't have the hottest.
No, you don't have that. She's up in North
I don't
Dakota.
have the
But
I don't have the hottest.
you don't have the
I got
sexual
the
predator
coolest.
governor like I do, and country hating governor like I do. But hey,
America.
let me tell you, broke records today in Buffalo, New York. 82 degrees in Buffalo, New York. Shattered records by like 5 or 6 degrees. I thought I was in ATX, man. I thought I was in Tejas.
Huh? Well, you know, they say, you know, hell freezes over.
Yep, and well, a lot of the country felt that this winter. So there were many parts that didn't that thought they were in hell, like maybe Austin just a couple months ago, if you remember right. A lot of people thought hell was freezing over. His pipes were bursting all over like Twinkies.
I don't know.
Like a Twinkies in a Weight Watchers convention.
I wasn't here. I was in Cabo.
I know
you know, like
you were down there with your senator. You were down there with your senator.
no,
Got
he
smart.
he went to Cancun.
Oh, that's the other side.
I was on the other coast.
There you go.
I was on the cool side.
There we go.
But hey, we got a great show, everybody. Big shout out to our sponsors, Alpha Elite Performance. Always looking for your Alpha Elite needs. You know, to make you that elite guy in the gym or gal. You know, check out their supplements, alphaeliteperformance.com. Use, as always, Elite 15 to get you a cool, smooth 15% off, like Sugar Skull pipe hitter
Yeah.
Pre-workout, because that won't make you jittery. You don't even need the water. Just
Nope.
take it, snort it.
Face won't even tingle.
No,
That stuff is
don't do
solid.
that.
No.
That is not part of the paid endorsement, is snorting their goods.
No.
But no matter what you're looking for, improved testosterone levels, andro, protein, the cleanest of the proteins, the gold seal of proteins. Hit them up, alphaeliteperformance.com. And then there's this cool clothing company that we like to rep called Kermode. They're, they make comfort-based clothing, like that's technical,
Yeah.
for all your outdoor needs. Apparently the people that own it and run it, veterans, and pretty cool, I hear. As cool as the air breathing through the shirt, wrapping around your nipples and exhausting out the back to
Wow.
keep you ever fresh in the woods.
Your hype is on point tonight.
Yeah, no, wait till I start talking about our guest. time to hype up our guest. But we got a great show. Rob, producer type, has always brought us some good stuff, and tonight he brought us a really cool cat, for us to talk about. Something that I've always I got a lot of questions, so like my notes are going to be good tonight. But I'll let you introduce Frank, and then we'll get going. Let's do it.
All right, so let me bring him on while I introduce him. I want to introduce Mr. Freddy Osuna, I think is how you say it. Freddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes. So Freddie is a founder. He is a veteran himself, doing a lot of stuff, which we're going to talk about tonight. And he is a founder of Greenside Training. You can find them at greensidetraining.com, also on facebook.com /Greenside Training. And we're going to talk to Freddie here just right now about, what he's done in his career, his background, what has led him to start Greenside Training, what it does different than a lot of other places out there that do similar kind of stuff, and what is his unique heritage, besides skills that he's developed in the military and probably other places, but some of the heritage and probably some of the things that have been passed down to him, how they have contribute to what he deals with today. So again, Freddie, thank you so much, and good to see you, brother.
Yeah, hey, great to be here. Big fan of you guys. We have run into each other by a chance of events and circumstantial circle, I guess. But I didn't see any Alpha Elite or Kamani apparel under my chair when I sat down over here. So
this ain't Oprah. This ain't Oprah.
Oprah would definitely.
You get. Well, we'll get. I'm sure Kermode Outdoors will be happy to send you a hat. We'll get your shipping information after the show.
There could be some VO VO stuff there too. You forgot to mention Veteran Outdoors, and
we can definitely get some outdoor gear to our man, especially Greenside, which is such a cool name, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. So what's your guys' connotation for Greenside, being Army veterans?
Well,
I figured you're throwing homage to the Army, this guy
I
really.
mean, like,
he tried to get in, but he didn't. He realized he made a mistake, and just like it's his way to always, it's Freddie's way to always think. I wish I could have been Army. I'm gonna name my company Greenside. Is that right? No.
Pretty sure that's not it. I'm pretty sure that's not it.
Okay.
But good way to get in there, Troy.
Well,
way to get in there.
I
always look at it as like the friendly side, but like the working side. Overlay colors. I go back to the old school things. But tell us about it.
All right, so it's got a lot of history. First and foremost, you guys ain't that far off. Most of the people I've trained in the last 15 years have been U.S. Army soldiers. I got my first start in 2008 as a contractor teaching tracking. So before I get there, let me back up. So you guys ain't that far off. If you look, you recognize that shape, right?
Yeah, I gotta say, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, maybe he's an SF guy. And then I thought, no, it's an arrowhead. I love the overlay of the Arizona flag on it too. That's sharp. Right.
That shape pays homage to United States Army scouting tradition. I was raised by a World War II veteran. He was an infantryman, tough man, very, very, very cool for me, at my age to have been raised by a World War II veteran. It had a lot to do with my perspective of the world and how and why I entered the military and so on. So, so yeah, I'm going to try and work my way up to some Alpha Elite level here.
Gotta get you that pipe hitter.
Yeah, so I think it's something. What's cool is tracking has brought so many opportunities to me that I can't believe. It's brought me just as many opportunities as my service in the Marine Corps did. When I was a young boy, you know, growing up on the Mexican border, drug highway of America, Tucson, Arizona. I saw a lot of stuff, man. The biological family that I came up with were ingrained in the drug trafficking culture. Tucson, Arizona. Drug trafficking culture, lifestyle, everything. And at a young age, I was, put in the system. You know, I saw the direct effects of what drugs and that lifestyle and fast money does to a family, including, you know, addiction of adults in the family, separation of the children, all that. So what I did when I was a young boy is I turned to the woods, and every chance I get, I went out to the desert. My younger brother, we explored, you know, we forgot about all the bad stuff, and we tracked quail, javelina, coyote, jackrabbit, chupacabra, whatever you got, man. We was tracking little fools. And one of my earliest stories was a pretty big lesson that carried on through lessons teaching military, and I was tracking a javelina pig, which you guys call skunk rat, I think, in Texas.
Or javelina. Yeah.
Or javelina, yeah. Javelina is a rodent, if anybody doesn't know that. It looks like a pig, but it's related to the rodent family. It has a cloven hoof. It's an ungulate creature with dew claws, very small claws in proportion to its size, and they're fast, and they taste like crap.
And they got little fangs.
And they got cool skulls if you like to collect skulls. So one time tracking these javelina, we tracked them up. I tracked a female javelina and her litter into a corner of a wash, an arroyo, we call it, dry river. And that mother didn't like that very much. So that mother proceeded to attack me, and all I had was my handmade, you know, fire hardened spear, and I'm 8 years old, which isn't going to do nothing to a height of a javelina at that age. So I got treed by that javelina, and that thing stayed there for almost an hour, waiting for me to come down so he can get a bite out of my butt. So how did that carry on? Well, we started teaching anti-counter tracking techniques, OIF, OEF, guys going overseas. And I always remember that lesson and a lot of other lessons as a kid that I learned as well that I shared during my courses. So growing up in that environment, you know, I lived in a city, but we had a cool opportunity to explore the desert right outside of Tucson, Arizona, just because of the circumstance we were in. Actually, teenage years came through. I always wanted to be a Marine ever since Tom Berenger in the movie Sniper. In the drive-in theater, man. Dude, I was in a drive-in theater watching that movie, and I was like, I don't know what that dude is, but that's gonna be me one day. And I must have been 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was like, man, Tom Berenger's a badass. And then another movie that inspired me was Born on the 4th of July, but that it inspired me, but then it confused me, you know, because Tom starts off patriot. Yeah. Tom starts off patriotic American, you know, and then he just snowballs downhill into, you know.
Yeah, he wasn't Maverick in that one.
No.
So it confused me, but I still wanted to be a Marine growing up. You know, I didn't think I was going to be able to, but by chance, graduated high school and a Navy recruiter got a hold of me. And he just dropped the ball, man. And this Marine swooped me up, basically punked that Navy guy. I was like, hey, he's mine. Go away, Squid. This is my Marine. And I was gone a week later.
Wow.
Oh, They're
What's
like
all
delayed
test?
entry program.
Nah,
No, sir.
we got a
No,
quota.
this guy ain't.
We got a quota to fill. I need
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this dude's gonna get lost in the woods. So let's just send him to boot camp before we lose him. So anyway, joined the Marines, 99. I spent 9 years in the Marines. I wanted to spend a career. It didn't work out.
Nice.
I was injured. Infantryman, scout, sniper. And my joy as a Marine was learning, and applying small unit tactics. I really enjoyed it. I found it. Yeah.
You were a state platoon guy?
Yes.
Sweet, man. That's a great gig.
I was a student of small unit tactics, and as you know, the Army 6-5 Marine infantrymen live by that FM manual. A lot of Army 6 small unit tactics, publications, all that stuff. So yeah, I found myself in the Marines, and I found myself in the jungle, the desert, everywhere I could. I was teaching young Marines as a young Marine, teaching young Marines how to hunt bad guys before long. And I actually spent 9/11, the morning of 9/11, September 11th, 2001. I was in squad leaders course at Camp Lejeune. And that was probably one of the courses that had the biggest impact on teaching me small unit tactics and leadership. And once 9/11 happened, it was like balls of the wall. The instructors just had no mercy after that.
Yeah,
a lot of CS gas.
Yeah, yeah, because they knew they had to train you. They knew what it meant, and that you weren't going to just sit on the sidelines, right? There was no way, not after that. Go ahead, Toby. Sorry.
No, I
Toby.
want to circle back because you were telling a story about the javelina train you, and for a second there, where you talk about your wood hardened, fire hardened spear, I was like, man, we are about to get a remake of Sparta, and that's I was like, come on, Freddie, go with it, go with and then I killed that the javelina. But you're right, they're ill-tempered little bastards. Every time we come across them, we're only allowed to kill 2 a year here. Unlike feral hogs, you can kill them, willy-nilly, any which way but loose. You gotta be careful. Like javelina, you gotta, choose your kills wisely because you only get 2 a year. But no, I grew up in the mountains. I love the bush. My dad was more of a, conservationist than he was a hunter. We did a lot of fishing, and he was I learned all the tracks. And of course we have the benefit of snow a lot of the time of the year. So, I learned the difference in the cats, from bobcat, lynx to mountain lions, the weasel family, man, there's too many of them. Martins, minks, weasels, skunks, raccoons, porcupine, and to learn all the rabbits and stuff. And at the time I just thought it was cool, that way I'd always know how to find food. But man, when I got in the Army as an infantry guy, those skills of looking for tracks, even though the tracks were different in the environments, but looking for the sign, looking for the broken branches, looking for the pattern of travel, looking for, how, they flow down, from the hillside to the water source, how they conceal their movements behind, shrubs, how they move through certain, forms of foliage. That became such a crucial thing. I too went did a little bit of reconnaissance, and all of a sudden counter tracking comes into it. Growing up though in the military, Army wise, we didn't have a lot of tracking schools, and there was the coveted Malaysian tracker school, which I've known probably 4 or 5 guys that got lucky enough to get that. And so when I heard that tracking school was becoming more of a mainstay within the Army, not just all forces, but within the Army, I got super excited. Of course, I get out in 10, so I miss all the cool shit. But I think that this is a skill that is highly underrated. It's perishable, and I think refreshers are good, and environments change. So what what you might identify in this environment, you're not going to identify here. The mindset though needs to be there. You need to have these, these primary academic, mindsets to like, this is why I should look for this. But you took it not just to animals, you took it to humans. And a lot of people don't understand. And this is one of the reasons why I'm excited to like have you on the show is like, this is everyone, you already brought up Tom Berenger. Everyone thinks that snipers are like this weird breed that, like do things just to shoot people. Well, that's like 10% of their mission. 90% of their mission is providing the crucial intelligence to commanders so commanders can execute what they need, or they can formulate what their intent is so that they can execute. And everyone misses the whole point that this is the role of the sniper. And being able to track human beings is a very important part of it. Not just so you can shoot them, just so you can reply back. These are the routes and track. And man, there's units in California, non-combat units. There are game wardens in California that need these skills because they're trying to track these cartels doing grows in the woods. People don't realize like how crucial this skill is. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to talk to you about all this stuff today. Okay.
Yeah. So let's, you brought up some really great points. And I think that this could be a very good, I kind of went into this blind kind of feeling, wanted to feel out what you guys wanted to do. I think I have an idea. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right, right on. So you talked about life pattern analysis, right? Which is so huge for find, fix, finish, exploit, pursuit, all that stuff. And ultimately saving lives and inflicting casualty on the enemy, right? Why? To preserve the American way of life and our force and power overseas. And so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my history and how that blends with the history from World War II, tracking, and please tell me if I'm out of line. I just wanted to keep this a little bit of instruction for you, Troy.
Man, go. You run with it, dude.
All right, so we're going to talk about some tracking history from World War II all the way up to now, British, American tracking, some Israeli tracking, and then we'll get into current events and what's happening now. Right now, there are more trained trackers than in history in the U.S. military and law enforcement across the country, and nobody knows that. And it's due to a small group of gentlemen who have learned this thanks to Uncle Sam. Maybe they learned it first from their grandfathers and fathers, who learned it from their grandfathers and fathers and carried on that American lineage of scouting and patrolling. And then they took it in the military, going to the service, and they structured it with academic and structured lessons that was teachable. That's what's important. Is it was teachable. So we can go back to World War II, and I'll give a brief, history of where this came from and where it is now in the United States. And if any of you are turned off in the audience because you're here in military law enforcement, don't be, because there's plenty of tracking schools that are teaching military alongside a civilian person that just wants to track an animal. My classes at Greenside, I teach children next to an operator, and I'm teaching the same lessons the exact same time, and they're picking it up. So, and I call that the language of tracking. So where it started probably thousands of years ago, right? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Israeli Bedouins.
As long as man has been hungry.
As long as man has been hungry. And there's a reference I give people. His name is Liebenberg. And Liebenberg wrote a book called Tracking the Origins of Science and Mathematics. And Louis Liebenberg, what he did was he proved through studying the Kalahari Bushmen in Africa that in order for humans to experience leisure time, which is what we needed, when we were hunter and gatherers, we had to and foragers, we spent most of our day looking for low calorie nuts, roots, critters, but we had to get a lot of that stuff, and it took a lot of time of our day to get that. Our ability to track high protein fatty meats over long distance and then eventually cook that high protein fatty meat, what led to leisure time for us. And that leisure time allowed for exploration, it allowed for critical thinking, it allowed for us to develop tools, agriculture, and all these other great advances in human history. And about 6,000 years ago, right, guys? Mm. So what all this did, tracking led to that. We were able to look at one footprint that connected to another footprint. Oh, there's some buzzards on the horizon. They're circling up there. Hey, let's just run up there with our rocks and sticks and see what's up there. Hey, there's a freshly killed prey animal. Hey, let's eat that up. So it allowed for leisure time. So jump forward, that led to advances in warfare between tribes and clans. We were able to track the enemy as humans. One example, a great book I enjoy is called Apache Raiding and Warfare. And one story in that book, this book is written from accounts from the 1800s on Apache raiding and warfare. And in one instance, there was one chief named Red Devil. Red Devil and his clan had camped out near CBQ, Arizona. It's a rolling high desert, savanna type region. And there's water there. And at this time, what they were doing was they were picking piñons. Piñons is a pine nut, right? You guys ever pick piñons? It's a pain in the butt. You get sap all over you. So they spend days picking these piñons. And the men, they went out and they're picking these piñons, and they tied up their horses to some cedars, and some Yavapai came and stole their horses. Red Devil and his men came back and saw their horses had been stolen. So he said, okay, we're going to go back to camp. We're going to smoke. We're going to tighten our bowstrings. We're going to fix our horses. We're going to get ready for tomorrow. And we're going to go find our horses, and we're going to kill every one of those Yavapai who took our horse. So he goes back. They smoke all night. They eat. They tighten their bowstrings and do all the other preparations for warfare. And they wake up early in the morning, and he says, his men, we did not ask for this. We don't want this. But because these men who tied their moccasins, soles to their uppers in this pattern, have come here and stole our horses, we're going to kill them. They asked for this, not us. By the way that these certain natives from this certain clan tied their lowers to their uppers and their moccasins, and this is around 1700s, they could decipher exactly which group of people that was. Just like a foreign fighter in a country will build his fire differently than the locals to cook or to warm his body. They could see these intricacies that we have the capability of ourselves, but we've lost. See, when those EMPs come, we're going to need these capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just by the way they tied those moccasins, he could tell exactly who it was. They tracked down 30 miles from CBQ, found them, and did their duty. Stole their horses and women and children. So that's an example of how that's played through out in history. The first contractors, right?
Indian scouts.
I enjoy. Right, that's right. In the American, the French and Indian War, the 7-Year War. Who was that? vicious human being, Robert Rogers, Rogers Rangers, right? Rogers, the Robert Rogers rules of ranging. There's 24 Robert Rogers rules of ranging. Am I right?
Never take the same path. Always pick the hardest route.
Yep.
Never take the same.
There you go.
route. Yeah.
There's 4 specific rules.
Never build a fire in 2 places. Never build a fire.
Man, that's good. There's 4 specific rules that reference tracking in Rogers rules of ranging, and it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And so going on to the French and Indian War, we were using scouts. The Americans the colonists were recognized as good fighters because they grew up with, and they spoke the language, they understood the culture and the religion of the native people, and they fought like the native people. American Revolution comes all the way up, and then the first, you got that scout right up ahead. He's got his spear, right? He's got his spear in front right there, ready to do damage, bad guys. And that goes into, 1866 during the Apache insurrection. Geronimo, Cochise. The only way the U.S. Army could find, fix, and finish the renegade Apaches was through the use of Apache, Yaqui, Papago scouts. And that's eventually what happened. That's what did it.
So yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it has its place throughout, but like Toby had hit on, and obviously you did too, Fred. I mean, it's not a skill. It's probably being taught more now, and it is taught to some degrees in some tier 1 combat units across different branches. But it definitely, at least it's changed. Maybe it's changed since I retired, but it definitely doesn't proliferate like it does, like many other schools do. It's like, oh, you're going to do this. You're in this type of unit. We'll teach you this. But the rest of the military, we can't fit that into all your mandatory training and all that other stuff. I mean, combatives kind of made its way up, right, for a while, and I think combatives has kind of spun back off. It's not as popular as it was. It went through its heyday, and the late 90s, early 2000s. But this is something that, probably a lot of people do that grow up hunting or rural areas or whatever, probably learn some, like you said, from their parents and grandparents. But the ability to track someone in a desert, in a jungle, look for the broken signs, not always looking at the ground to look for footprints, but look for signs at the mid length, look for signs along at the shoulder level, that kind of stuff. Do you see that as a major downfall of the military not teaching that? Do you see that they've gotten away from that so much that they're suffering from that?
I think that after the biggest, the most unfortunate instance of that happening was after the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, you had a lot of casualties due to the failure to conduct pursuit operations. The risk-averse LT, the conscientious objector who was drafted. There's a lot of factors that added to that, but the failure to conduct pursuit operations, which I don't know how to put it, simple terms. Basically, you make contact with a bad guy, you can't just stop the fight there. You've got to pursue the contact and finish. And if you don't do that, you've lost a huge opportunity to do that. And so after the Vietnam War, I think that's the biggest example of our failure to learn from the lessons learned in blood. Would you guys agree to that?
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of people learn tracking either naturally or just by baptism by fire, if you would, in Vietnam while they were there. They had to. Probably had never even done it.
Well, Vietnam, I want to bring Vietnam up in terms of education, because Vietnam had in country some very specific schools. Recondo School. Recondo School in Vietnam is like, not only could you get the Recondo tab, you could also get a CIB like while attending school. But like we haven't had those kind of schools. And when you look at some of the locations that have shut down, some of the places that we did education that would fall into this realm, especially tracking, Panama.
Jungle
Like,
Warfare School in Panama. Yeah.
like that's
Oh,
gone. And when of course, like all good things fall to budget cuts, right? But I think Troy, you brought up a very good point. Um, one of the reasons combatives, did so well is because uh, early on, we'll say like the global war on terror, building up to the global war on terror, and the early onset of the global war on terror, that it was easy to sell to commanders that they needed to train all their people or have people in their rank and file able to train their people for that skill. Sorry, I got a little Apache helicopter flying overhead right now. They've been coming in and out all day. They're doing some kind of thing here. OPSEC, I just told the world. But no, we got away from those schools. Like look how hard it is. The money that's spent on dive school, right? Same thing. It's like if you're not in a Halo unit, you're not in a dive unit, we're not going to spend money on you going to free fall. We're not going to spend money on you, getting your bubble. We're not going to spend our money doing this. And like Recondo school, like that doesn't exist anymore. Thank you, Cav Scouts. Like ruin it, reconnaissance for like the real reconnaissance. Like once we get past Desert Storm, right? Like we'll just say Desert Storm was kind of like the end of like all good real reconnaissance schools, because the military thought like from that on, like we're not actually going to have to do dismounted foot man tracking. Apparently they didn't read Bravo 20, like,
right.
But I digress. Sorry.
So you brought up Vietnam, the Vietnam War, and the training that was available. You had the British Jungle Tracking School in Brunei, the Malaysian Tracking School, that was established after World War II, and a big reason that was established is so many downed pilots during World War II, and that's why the Air Force still has the hugest budget for survival training, and they actually lead the armed forces in survival training, research, and all that, which is funny to most people, but those guys actually have MOSs. People don't know that MOSs as survival instructors, and these guys are amazing. One guy, Alan Neuenfeld, he's a SEER instructor. I think he's just going to teach SEER the rest of his life. He doesn't do anything else, I guess, but just an amazing survival guy. The guy can make a fire out of a fart. So Vietnam, there was combat trackers. Did you guys know that?
No.
There was combat track. There was a designated combat tracking teams, and how they got started was a secret program ran by the British, because the British ran the tracking school in Malaysia. General Westmoreland determined that the only way we're going to save lives and inflict more casualties is by conducting pursuit operations. So they got with the United States, the Brits, and under a secret program, they sent a contingent of 115 soldiers initially with their dogs. The man tracker would train separate, and you'd be taught by British Gurkha and British SAS, Royal Marines, so on. And then the dogs would be on a separate program and learn dog scent tracking. And then at the end of the program, they would bring the dog and the man together. As you guys know, there's nothing, when you combine the intelligence of a man and the instinct of a dog into one team, it's a very dangerous thing. And that's why they are in a top priority. They are a top priority target in a battlefield for guys in our trade, right? So combat trackers, there's books out now. They declassified the program in the mid 90s. But those old vets, man, they did a lot of good work, combat tracking teams in Vietnam. If you look up combattracker.org, I believe is the website, there's some history on that. So going up from Vietnam, so we lost some lessons in blood. A lot of stuff didn't get carried over. A lot of booby trap, field craft. We tried to capture in the Army FMs, and I think they did a fairly good job. But a lot of that institutional knowledge, like always, gets lost. fast forward all the way to my era. When I got in 99, we were still training for Cold War. You know, we still had all of our kit was built for the Cold War. All of our tactics were built for the Cold War. And we really had a big kick in the nuts in the desert, starting off early, realizing that we were too heavy, too hot. You know, our ballistic, what our understanding of ballistic engagement completely changed from then to now. And it's still changing.
And you know, part of that was from Desert Storm. I mean, I was in Desert Storm, right? So that whole you know, mass of 500,000 troops and the speed of which it transpired, you know, gave again this false sense of you know, just you can't hurt us kind of, you know, mentality that, hey, look, we massed 500,000 troops in the desert. We stopped this whole thing from happening, kicked them out of Kuwait. And because of all these weapon systems we've been building since Vietnam, right? All these systems that got proven for the first time, the Bradley, the M1, the Apache, so on and so forth. The systems that were all built for Fulda Gap, for Germany, for the Cold War. Mm-hmm. And they got to be proven. It was like, look, we do have the best stuff. Nobody can compete against us. And everything's still focused on that. So, you know, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, especially in Afghanistan, right? That's where the shock came from, that we went from Bradleys and Apaches and F-16s to horses, right? And that was a culture shock from not only the American culture, but throughout the military culture of, wow, we just took it back a long ways. Like all those weapon systems, all those billions of dollars spent doesn't mean anything, because as we know, the enemy has a vote and the battlefield dictates. Absolutely. Right?
Absolutely. And being able to adapt to that insurgency, to that counterinsurgency operational model took a long time. 2004, 2005, we were seeing a lot of IED casualties. That's probably the biggest trending of IED casualties we took. And it's because we were rolling around. We were just rolling around, not outfitted with the tactics or equipment to respond to an insurgency. General Mattis, and you know, there's always a lot more people involved in the effort, and his name gets credit for it, of course. But there's a program called Combat Hunter in the Marine Corps. The Combat Hunter program was stood up in 2005, initially as a test model. I think Stay Marines were the first tests to do it. And what General Mattis wanted to do was create a Marine who could visually track IED layers from where they came from, where they went to, in order to conduct pursuit operations. And so the Combat Hunter program involved 3 pillars. There was 3 things. You got to teach them how to track. You got to teach them advanced observation techniques, and you got to teach them a little bit about policing, tactical questioning, sensitive site exploitation, so on. So the first element, they took a guy named Scott Donnellan, who was a Rhodesian salute scout. David Scott Donnellan had been teaching the United States since '95. He was a salute scout, of course, so he had some history in tracking. And the Rhodesians is a huge history. So David Scott Donnellan was teaching first law enforcement chase teams for Department of Corrections. And then he started teaching up at Fort Lewis and Washington. And the word spread. Oh man, that's some jungle up there, dude. I don't know how.
Dinosaur country. Dinosaur country.
Man, how do you guys patrol at night without getting eaten alive by an ant, by a mountain of ants?
Carefully. Very, very carefully.
They don't teach that in Marines, huh?
Well, apparently y'all like to get eaten, you know, like, but
yeah.
No, hey,
yes, sir.
we got a question in the chat room. I don't want to skip it over because you know, she want to make sure we ask it. You have Native American heritage, right? Was it Apache?
I'm a Yaqui.
You're Yaqui. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Bosco Yaqui tribe of Southern Arizona, which comes from northern Mexico. So I'm a Mexican Indian from Uto Aztecan descent.
Okay. The does that culturally like build up the warrior, kind of like the, we know the Comanches, the Apaches, like the warrior was built up like that, and the warrior was kind of revered, the brave, was revered, and that was like a lot of time and effort culturally was put into like uh, the support of that. Is that the same with you, and or do you experience that now? Is actually the question that
Well,
Kathleen was asking.
hi, Kathleen. To answer your question, as a young boy, I was drawn to it. The first person that ever taught me how to track was my grandmother. Um, we call her Nana Licha, and she would take me out and show me. I don't even think she even spoke a word to me, but she would show me things in the dirt, uh, show me different, I guess, lessons in a very young age. She was really the first role model and person I looked up to, which is common among North American cultures, to be raised at the earliest stages by the females, and then at 6 or older get turned to the males. I was just by chance. I had time to spend with my grandmother. I didn't live the typical native traditional life. Um, I I have kind of naturalistic beliefs mixed in with Catholicism, which is the religion of the Yaqui. But I see myself primarily as I believe the same thing everybody else does. I just see the spirit through um, things in nature and my surroundings. But yeah, I think that I can tell you this: a Yaqui, once you piss off a Yaqui, once you cross them, they hold a grudge, and I've always been that way. I've tried not to be that way. I found it as an opportunity for growth. You know, that's why I'm here with Stu and the Nunn, so they can teach me to be a more tolerant person and and not hold grudges against the world.
That's,
But yeah,
as I sit here with the infidel flag behind me.
Is that what you got?
Yeah.
I thought it was the American
Well,
flag.
you see American flag. The everyone watching sees an infidel flag. I got different scenes here. Hey, so I mean, obviously, you just talked about it, Freddie. You had this upbringing from very young age. I mean, some of your native heritages and skills, things passed down. You've taken that and fused that with your military training, and essentially, right? That's what Greenside does. You take the best of both worlds. I'm assuming when you give classes, when you do training, do you bring some of those life lessons that were passed down through your family and ancestors, in addition to the skills and techniques you've learned in the military? Is that what you bring to bear?
I think that there is a combination between my Marine Corps lineage and my lineage as an American. I used to when I used to teach Marines, and I'll tell you, because we're leading to that. I was a subject matter expert for Second Marine Division combat tracking, and when I would introduce myself, and tell them, "Hey, you guys are wondering," and I'm going to tell you, I'm a Native American. I'm a Yaqui Indian, but you guys are Native Americans as well. Where were you born? Robert Rogers was a Native American. Where was he born? And we have a unique fighting style and tradition and lineage that we still have today that nobody else can say. You know, just like the barbarians or the berserkers or the Spartans or the Mongols, or all these warriors had something that made them unique as fighters. We as Americans we have something very unique, and it comes from the heart and the passion for our country. And it starts off at all of us being native to this land. There's nothing different between a Native American, indigenous blooded Native American, and a third generation American from Ireland that makes him track better. There's nothing. We're geared up with the same equipment, and if you use that equipment correctly, you can track somebody. You just got to be willing to learn. And the only prerequisite for learning how to track and becoming a great tracker is the humility and the willingness to learn. I look at ants, and the ants speak to me in a footprint. I smell feces coming up and radiating from the soil. if I'm willing to listen to Earth's lowest life form, wouldn't I be willing to listen and consider the messages that are sent to me from its highest? And that's what I try and give to people, because that's an important message. And when you're, just like I used to say, there's no atheists in fighting holes, right?
That's right.
Oh,
Where there ain't no atheists on a track line. And
No.
if you got a bad guy and he took a kid and darted off into the bush, and that kid ain't going to survive the night, you're going to wish you paid attention to that tracking class. And
Yeah.
it's a very powerful thing to sit and listen to some of these instructors that I get to work with.
And you train more than just you train military. You've been a contractor. Do you train law enforcement agencies and civilian agencies, state, local, that kind of stuff too? Is that what do you get contracted to bring that skill set to them?
Yes, I teach a lot of SWAT teams who have recognized the need and the threat for the threat of domestic terrorism. The domestic terrorism organizations who are developing or building training sites in the rural parts of the country. You have a lot of anti-poaching operations, counter narcotics, illegal grow sites, bootleggers. All that goes National Park Service, BORTAC for the Border Patrol. Most federal agencies I've taught, and probably most law enforcement agencies.
Oh, did we lose you?
Am I lost audio?
I think we lost audio on you, Freddie. Hold on, we may have. Freddie, can you hear me? We lost your audio.
7 to 18-year-olds.
We lost. Hey, Freddie, can you hear me? We lost like the last 15 seconds of you. We lost your audio.
Okay. So a lot of law enforcement, federal,
yep.
Municipal. But my favorite class to teach is children. Teaching children outdoor safety, how to track animals, how to track their way to food, how to track their way to water.
Really?
Basic field craft.
Life skills.
Yeah.
Yep. And it gets them outdoors for one day in the summer, and the parents love it. And actually what's funny is the dads are using their kids as an excuse to come to my class.
So do you have a class for kids, just that you tailor just for kids to teach that?
Absolutely.
And then, I mean, it sounds like with all the agencies, especially in the stuff along the southern border and everything else, that there's probably no shortage, or should not be any shortage of business for you, for sheriff's departments, state, federal agencies, everything else. I mean, it's, as we mentioned earlier, it's a perishable skill, and I imagine you probably do different levels, right? You probably have like an introductory, and you probably work your way up to more of advanced, harder to track, more discrete signs, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So when we taught, I got out of the Marines in 2008, and I was working for the Army, right? I was hired directly by the Army at Fort Huachuca. I'm sure you guys spent some time at Fort Huachuca sometime.
Yeah.
And we were teaching soldiers how to track before they got into country. Mostly SF and Rangers. And so they come to us, we teach them how to track for 2 weeks. It was called the U.S. Army Combat Tracker Course. That course ran from 2006 all the way to 2010. And nobody knew about it. It was a wonderful course. We were teaching good tracking. We had a huge effect, but the problem was it was too combat related for the Huachuca environment, U.S. Army Center of Intelligence environment. It was called the Combat Tracker Course. It was not deemed an intelligence asset, and it was disbanded in 2010. I started Greenside in 2011 based on a system that I was developing while teaching. This system, what it does is it takes what we were doing in 2 weeks. I'm giving the most important elements, or I'm able to accomplish what's most important within those 2 weeks in 2 days. And that's called the Weaponize the Senses course. And what the course is exactly what I just said. It's weaponizing your senses for whatever task, mission you have. I'm going to make you more sensitive to your environment and increase the speed of your OODA loop, responding to different environmental stimulus.
Oh, that's interesting. That's got to be stuff that people probably never thought about when they go through it. I mean, just the term weaponized senses isn't two words that people I probably have ever put together.
It's we talk about situational awareness, right? You guys have,
right.
The Army's always coining different terms, and SA just seems to be something that's been thrown around for 20 years. And, when I got in, I was like, all right, man, this dude's going to teach me some SA, right? What do? They say, hey, boot over here, point your rifle that way. That's your sector of fire. There's your left lateral limit. There's your right lateral limit. There's your depth blade. There's your whatever. That's SA in the military. For the most part, that's what they're teaching for situational awareness. And where it was lost was after Vietnam, for instance. Let's look at police calling. You got your favorite pastime, right, guys? You guys, I'm sure you guys used to.
I have an expert badge.
He does have an expert badge.
So police calling, after Vietnam, police calling was for a purpose. It was for teaching these soldiers attention to detail and sharpening their vision. And what they did was, they'll get out there. Hey, if it doesn't grow, it goes, right? Every little piece, it gives a little bit of communication skills, movement, geometry, staying online, a little bit of taking direction. Well, what did we do? We turned it into a punishment, right? We're like, okay, well, let's just go. Oh, you want to be jackasses? Go pick up trash.
Yeah, double arm interval, get in line.
Yeah, this range ain't gonna clean itself.
That's it.
Right. So what I did was I was tired of that. I remember that people were telling me, "Yeah, I'm gonna teach you how to be switched on, Freddie. Be frosty." Like, nah, you ain't teaching me nothing. I'm gonna teach myself. And I went out and I got trained. I found training as a Marine. I got trained by the U.S. Army in my first formal tracking school. I found the funding. I was nobody. I was just an E5, but I wanted my guys to get trained, and I wanted my guys to be able to inflict casualties on the enemy, and I wanted them to be able to sustain themselves with high protein fatty meats forward of the line of troops if you had to do it.
Yeah.
So I learned how to track, and I taught my guys how to track, and we did it, man. And we made damn good tracking teams in 1st Marine Division. Fast forward to U.S. Army Tracker course. That was pretty cool. Since 2005 or 2007, 2010, U.S. Army Combat Tracker course, 2005 to now, the Combat Track Hunter course is still going on for the Marines.
Okay.
And it is part of every Marine's training, whether it be just a class on a PowerPoint. Every Marine is familiar with the Combat Hunter program. Most infantry are trained in tracking through the Combat Hunter program in the Marine Corps.
That's good. I mean, that's a Marines.
That's a crucial skill. Yeah.
I mean, look, the Army followed the Marines. The Marines was doing everyone's, rifleman first, well before the Army ever did, right? Unfortunately, it took some, petroleum specialists to get captured in Iraq when they didn't know how to clean their weapons to get the Army to realize that everyone should probably be trained in basic infantry combat skills. That's just the reality of it, right?
Absolutely.
It took that. But it's interesting you mentioned about training your soldiers. It just reminded me of, when I was stationed in Alaska for a long time, and I went through both the Air Force's Arctic Survival course plus a number of the Army ones up there. And, I would take my squad out, take my soldiers out, and teach them how to look for sign. And I'd teach them how to build snares for rabbits and squirrels and all that stuff. And we'd be out on the ranges for a week in the wintertime, and my guys would be cooking rabbits and squirrels over the fire, and everyone else was just eating MREs. And hey, all it takes is a bouillon cube and some hot sauce, and you can make a rabbit taste like filet mignon. And they'd come over and they'd come out like, hey, now we may have put out 70 snares and got 3 animals, but my guys were taught how to do it because what else are you going to do? Teach them.
You weren't eating the 4 fingers of death.
No, you weren't doing that.
Yeah.
But
and that's a great point, man. That is an excellent point and a huge. What you just said is the perfect segue into the civilian industry and how I ended up teaching tracking in the civilian industry. As a soldier, what you did was you created adoration with your troops. What I do with a Marine and a soldier, airman, sailor, whatever, they come to us, we teach them how to track. They go back to their unit and they're teaching this very important skill, but very interesting skill as well, that has immediate application. It has immediate feedback, because we have this, the generation now is all about immediate feedback, instant gratification, and tracking gives you that. Tracking gives you that instant gratification for information when you know how to locate and read what you're looking for. So for you to be able to do that and create that adoration with your soldiers probably rose you up as a leader, as a trainer. They appreciated that from you, because all kinds of people were saying, hey, I'm going to teach you this, but you actually did it and gave them results for it. Think about a father, though. At the end of the day, every soldier and Marine and cop, agent, ranger, whatever, goes home and they pick up some gun porn, right? Gun magazines, or that outdoor magazine, or they're looking at it online, right? Because we're not doing any print, apparently, according to Jason Swore. Or they're looking it up online on the phone, but they're looking at that stuff, right? So what I wanted to do was, hey, how can I ultimately affect, how can I ultimately have a positive effect in the world? And how it was by reaching fathers and mothers so that they could teach their children, and then their children would teach their children. And just like that just like Robert Rogers, who grew up a first generation Irish American with those natives who learned those skills, he was able to apply that and make a big impact in combat.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do it through the parents now, so that through families and generations. And that's why I got into the commercial industry with Recoil. I started writing with Recoil Magazine. Recoil Magazine
Nice.
will come out. Off Grid, Breach Bang Clear. David Reeder over at Breach Bang Clear would come out, and document the course. Different guys like Firelance Media, just a lot of different people in the gun industry who really saw the crossover, and Active Apparel,
Yeah.
So that's really where we're at now. We're able not only to affect people who do this business, but I'm able to give this to American families across the country, children. And I think that just my little small part of this world may have an impact that somebody remembers, and that's through tracking.
Yeah, no, definitely a skill that, like we said several times, it's perishable, but when you do it, it is very fun and rewarding when you're able to do it and you realize you're on something, or you're able to you can't see it physically, but you eventually find it, or which way it's going by looking at things that most 99% of the world would never see. And that's pretty much what you're doing, right? Attention to detail. You're seeing things no one else sees. That Sergeant Major sees that cigarette butt 150 yards away in that grass. That's a skill. They teach you that in Sergeant Major Academy, but that's what it takes,
Yep.
right? That rock needs painted. He'll see it.
They can find you on their grass.
Yeah. That Sergeant Major can see from the drone that he should not be using to look at soldiers. Some have been known in combat to look at soldier uniform violations and while the guy's on patrol, but that's a whole different story. But hey, we've been going for a while tonight. You're very involved. Obviously, you served a number of years. You're still contributing, giving back to your community and our country. I know you're involved with a number of charities and causes. Is there anything we haven't, any of those you want to kind of highlight for our viewers and listeners, or is there anything we haven't hit on, any topics that you want to make sure that people know about before we let you go?
Yeah, I think that, well, right now, there's a lot of people that talk about the alpha mindset, the alpha lifestyle, like them boys at Skill Set Magazine. Really love that organization and the guys involved with them. And just getting outside, right now, you're in crazy times. And if you start feeling like there's something wrong with you, and isolation is having its toll on you, get busy, do something with your hands, pick up a guitar, you know. Everything doesn't have to be about, you know, guns and politics and religion. You know, pick up something new, enjoy the arts, get outside, pick up a bow. I don't know. Just stay busy. And if, you know, that ain't doing it, seek help, talk to somebody. You know, there's a lot of resources out there, to include one of my favorite organizations, the Semper Fi Fund,
Great org.
America's Fund, Semper Fi Fund. You want to get involved in the shooting sports, never tried it? Hey, there's a wonderful chance to the Reconnaissance Sniper Foundation, the RNS Foundation. You can join Team RSF in your local area, contact them through the website, see if there's a team, and you can get into competitive sports. Just keep pushing. These things are, you know, it's crazy times, but there is hope. But most importantly, get out in the woods and enjoy yourself. Get the hell outside, people, and get your kids outside.
Yes. When
Quickest cure.
Yeah, except for during this time when you should be in front of your screen. Get away from the screens. That's it, right? But no, awesome. Well, hey, Freddie, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. Really appreciate it. We've had a lot of guests from all different aspects on this show over the years, by all means, I think, besides our good buddy Sawyer at Vets for Children.
Yeah, we need to make that link up.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, obviously he does great things with that too. But you really are the first person we've ever had that has specialized in this skill set. And it was great to hear. Man, you educated me. I know you educated a lot of our viewers and listeners, and you know, just the history of all this. I mean, you brought us some stuff that I'm sure a lot of people, they sat down and thought about it, realized what it was, but you brought it right there. And I think it's good for people to hear that and realize that this is a skill that has been around longer than, you know, as long, like you said, since man first hunted, and still needs to be maintained today.
Yeah. And I want to train you guys. I got a lot of people we got a huge association of people that love teaching this skill, and we are available all around the country. Anytime you want to do it, let's do it. You can host a class. Contact me through the website. And if you just want to talk about tracking, contact me through the website. Give me a phone call. I'll talk to you about tracking, as you can tell.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely going to hook you up with Sawyer and all that. But if you can stay on for a few minutes, we again want to thank you so much. And everybody, make sure you check out, I know Rod's been putting in the chat, check out greensidetraining.com. You can also find them on Facebook at Greenside Training. Check out the classes. I was on there looking at it. I mean, like Freddie said, I mean, go in there, check, you know, take a look, learn some stuff, and see what you can do. Toby, any final words?
No, like you said it perfectly. You know, we get so many different folks on here, but a lot of times it's repetitive in terms of skill set. And this is like one of those skill sets that, you know, it's great, you know, that people know about it, that learn about it. And you are like Freddie's the first that we've had on here to talk about tracking. And, you know, like as a little guy, you know, growing up in the bush, man, I love this stuff. And I always, you know, felt like it was underappreciated and undertaught. And, you know, I kind of got mad, you know, knowing the Army had a school, you know, like last couple of years I was in, that some of which I could have used, especially when we were doing like counter drug stuff. So would have been awesome. But
well, I look forward to having you two in a class someday, or maybe you guys will host a course, Stu and Nunn tracking course.
Ooh, we'll track everyone right to a USB cable so I can figure out how to get my like keyboard to work.
No, we could do some animal tracking, that's for sure.
We'll do some. I've been known to get in the woods, and I've been known to try and find some things. So yeah, I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Freddie. Thank you, Toby, everyone, for tuning in, bringing us into your ears and on your screens. Be sure and tune in next week here, 8 o'clock, Stu and the Nunn, like every week. We look forward to having you guys back, and another great guest we already have lined up. Rob is on point. And with that, Freddie, good night, my friend. Stay on for a little bit. We're going to take you into the green room, and we'll wish everyone a good night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.